wildflowers, but look for coyote scat, roadkill, things like that. Butterflies actually like really stinky, icky stuff. They'll go after tree sap. I've seen them on aphid honeydew. Like there'll be a plant that's just totally infested in aphids, and the butterfly will be sitting there drinking the honeydew off of the aphids. Okay, now we're going to talk about research. Yeah? Slurpers. It's a proboscis, so it's basically a straw. But that's, they'll go after rotting fruit, rotting vegetation that's all mushy, and when they need minerals, salts and minerals, they'll go after the damp soil, things like that have it dissolved in there that they can slurp it up. Okay, so you see a butterfly. What do you do with that observation? Do you just keep it to yourself? Do you share it with somebody? How do you do that? In this day and age, there's a lot of ways to do this. Most people have smartphones, and that's the example I'm just going to go over really quickly. You can always come email me. I've got my card over there if you have any questions. I am glad to respond to emails. So we need coordinates, lat-long coordinates preferably. And elevation isn't quite as necessary because if you have the lat-long coordinates, we can figure that out. And photo. If you want to be sure that your record is confirmed and included in a database, photos is best. Because if we don't know you, we don't really know if you can identify the butterfly clearly. Especially there's a lot of species that are hard to identify. We really need a photo.
You figured out how to get them to hold still long enough.
You look for them on water, on the roadsides, mud, that kind of thing. Look for them on flowers, look for them on roadkill. They find something good to eat, they'll stay there. Oops. So, I am one of the record keepers, and I work with a couple others that we track records for the state. Anything that comes in for Washington. And like I mentioned earlier, we're trying to build a database of all of these records. So I'm one person that you could send your data to. There are websites online. There's a lot of different places now. Problem is, not all of them talk to each other, so there might be records on eButterfly or iNaturalist, but we have to look in both places to get those. If you see something in Washington, we would prefer you send it to us just so that we can get it in the official database. Personally, I pretty much just require a photo and either lat-long coordinates or a really good description of where you were. Like the road, how many miles up you were, if you have township range sections, something that I can get it close enough, because ultimately I want to get a lat-long coordinate. If I have to generate that from your description, then that's fine. So this is what I use. It's a free app on smartphones, iPhones and Android. I have a little sheet that I wrote up on how to use this that I can email you if you're interested, just a PDF document. It's called Avenza PDF Maps, and this uses your phone's internal GPS to document where you're at. And you can drop waypoints on it just like a GPS. But now you don't have to take a GPS and your phone, you just take your phone. It has a lot of maps on it that you can purchase, mostly for about the same price as a paper map. And they're geo-referenced, so it'll tell you where you're at if you're driving around in the woods. Even if you don't have a cell signal, it can still find you, the GPS will still work. And so these are just some examples of how I've used it. The National Geographic Trails maps are what I prefer. They're really detailed, and if I'm in an area I'm not familiar with, that's what I like to use. If I am somewhere like the Mohican where I know where I'm at and where I'm going, I'll just use this base map that I downloaded, and then I can just drop pins on it that I can then download later. So these pins, you can export them and email them to me or to anybody else really easy. And you can also add notes, you can add photos, all sorts of stuff. And one more thing I was going to mention. If you don't want to get Avenza, or deal with the maps or anything, most people have a compass app on your phone. I think it's like a default app, and that will, it's not just a compass, it actually has the lat-long coordinates. So all you have to do is pop that open and write down your coordinates, either in a notes app on your phone or in a notebook, paper notebook or something. So all of these you can send to my email, and I will take any and all records. I've got cards over on the table that you can grab if you don't want to write this down. And like I said, just as detailed the notes as possible. And that's it. This is actually at the Sinlehegan group that I took up there. So, any questions?
You talked a lot about what they feed on, but there's a stage where they're feeding as caterpillars, and a stage where they are feeding as butterflies on neck. Do they feed on the same plant for the caterpillar as for the flower, or a wider range?
They can. The caterpillars are tied to the plants that species uses. So, a lot of, like I mentioned, the pale crescent only uses one species of native thistle. Other butterflies can use a wide range of plants, but the caterpillars are feeding, they do have chewing mouthparts, and they're feeding on the leaves. Depending on the species, some of them will feed on the flowers, some will feed on seed pods. A lot of the blues will actually chew a little hole into a lupin seed pod and burrow inside of it, so it protects them, and then they have food, and they eat the seeds inside of the lupin pod. And then the adult butterflies, they may nectar on the lupin, but they're going to be using a wide variety of plants, really anything that's available when they're flying, because the caterpillars may be feeding on the plant at a certain stage of the plant's cycle, and then by the time the adult hatches out, the plant may be dried up, or or it may be flowering, or now it's gone to seed. It really depends on what you're looking at, what species.
I noticed you said, is that where they go to puddles, or do you mean something else?
Yeah, like mud puddles, or wet ditches, anything. It's called puddling because they're accumulating usually in large groups. Like a couple of my pictures, you may have noticed there were a lot of blues all together. It was right after a thunderstorm, all the rain had washed off of a roof, and so the ground was really damp in this one spot. And it was wet everywhere, but this one spot, it had probably washed minerals off of the roof, salts and things, and the butterflies were congregating right there. So that they'll go to deer licks, where the deer and the bighorn sheep have been eating the ground because it's real high in minerals. And then if you get that wet, like after a storm, the butterflies love that.
So to create something like that, just keep a little bit of wetness around your garden where it might be.
Sometimes they'll come, they don't always come, just because it's wet, doesn't mean they're going to come there, they're guaranteed to come there. Because really what they want is the minerals. So if you, I've never actually tried this, but maybe if you had like a salt block or something, and you had that out there, get a little bit wet. At the Sinlehegan, at the headquarters, the water naturally had a lot of iron and sulfur in it, and we would just put the sprinkler out on the driveway to get it wet, and the butterflies would come to it like crazy. So, yeah.
Do you see monarchs in this county?
Yes. In fact, they've been seen at the Sinlehegan on several occasions. They're frequently seen all up the river. They follow the riverways usually. So they're found up the Methow Valley and up the Okanogan Valley. Sometimes they'll be seen in the east, but usually they're down in the basins.
Butterflies like drip irrigation lines too.
Oh,
You'll see them in each
Yeah.
pod along the drip portals of each drip hole and
Okay.
drip tape.
I wonder if maybe there's like some minerals that are like evaporating
There's
in the pipes
calcium
or
buildup at
something.
that point, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Huh.
What are the things that we call tent caterpillars? When I was growing up on the East Coast, we were taught, as kids, we were taught to destroy them because they were all over the place. in the last 30 years, I've seen maybe a couple here in Okanogan County.
Yeah, I don't think they're as common here. That's actually a moth. Let's see, last year or the year before, there was a really big outbreak on the west side, like, actually 5 years ago, I think, up by Mount St. Helens. The tent caterpillars, there's several different species actually. We've got 2 or 3 out here. I think a couple of them are native. There's 1 or 2 that are non-native that can be very destructive. This particular one I think was a native one, but it pretty much stripped all of the alder trees all around Mount St. Helens. And people reported going up there and hiking and said it sounded like it was raining because of all the caterpillar poop falling down out of the trees. And it was crazy. But the trees all recovered. As long as they don't have the outbreak over multiple years, the trees can recover.
So I don't go to hell for destroying them?
No, a lot of people will cut them off the trees and burn them, and yeah, they can be quite destructive. So yeah, they're not endangered, so it's fine if you get rid of a few of
Okay.
them. Anything else?
Do they like Siberian elm?
The tent caterpillars? Probably, because they seem to really like cottonwoods and alder trees, and elm would be right in there too, so.
It's a park where we had a lot of them living on the Siberian elm.
Yeah.
We all said, Yahoo!
Yeah.
Taking over the whole.
Hey, was there, oh yeah.
Yeah, in terms of density, say for the Sinmahican, would we think in terms of butterflies per acre or acres per butterfly?
I don't know.
Say in July?
Usually I'm thinking in terms of butterflies per acre, because I want to know what's in each parcel, each general area that I'm going to, but, yeah, there's like a couple spots where we've, just in one spot, I've recorded 51 species of butterflies. And then at the bunkhouse, the headquarters area, that's the second highest count. I think there's like 49 species recorded there. That's probably because that's where everybody's at. So it's like, anytime we saw something flying past the door, you're counting it.
Would that
Because
be-
you're not just standing in one spot all year round somewhere else, so.
So that's location. What's the time reference? Like for the whole summer or like 1 week, 1 day?
Yeah, like most butterflies, the adults have about a 2 to 3 week flight period. Some of them will be extended over about 4 weeks or even a little bit longer, especially the ones that overwinter as adults. You can actually get individuals living for a year or slightly more. The old ones will start overlapping with the new ones coming out. And then some butterflies, the individuals only live for a few days, but then the whole population is flying within a couple weeks or so. And then you get different species, different times of the year. So early spring, you're getting the ones that overwintered as adults are just coming out, and then a few like the Julia's orange tip overwintered as a pupa, I think, or maybe a larva. So they take just a little bit longer to finish developing, and then they'll pop out. So that they should be coming out like any day now. You should start seeing those. And then through the summer, July is usually peak. That's when you'll get the most species, the most bang for your buck. And then it starts drifting off towards the end of the summer. You'll just have a few species that fly at the end of the summer. Okay. And I'll be available over at the book table if anybody has any more questions.